Blog Talk Radio.
Hello and good morning, one and all. My name is Amos A. Nunn, not my real name, the Black Fact Checker, the Incog-Negro. This is our first official show, Sunday mornings, 9 o'clock my time. I want to welcome everybody who is listening, welcome everybody who is tuning in, who may listen after the show is recorded. Again, we're doing this show as a way to promote something we call the A.G.E.N.D.A. And the A.G.E.N.D.A is an acronym. The acronym stands for the Association of Geographically Enslaved Negro Descendants of the Americas. Yes, we were very specific in that acronym because we wanted to make sure that we encompassed all who came as slaves through the transatlantic slave trade that hit places like, the islands, the Dominican Republic, Cuba, South America, anywhere there are dark-skinned African slave progeny that exists, anywhere in the Americas, that's who we are talking to and about. And there's a reason that we are talking to and about these individuals, because they hold a unique place in this planet, on this planet. And that place is that we have no homeland. We have no land we are able to call our own. And so we are geographically enslaved. We are captives as a result of circumstance. And the most important aspect of who we are is understanding that we are not welcome here in the Americas. The Americas, the dream that is supposedly America, it's not for us. It's not for folks of color. Our job was to build the country, forced labor, enslavement. There was no welcome sign when it came to us coming to this country. And so geographically, we are captives within this society that has a disdain for us. And that, my friends, is why the A.G.E.N.D.A has been put together. Now, there are three principles that we ascribe to, those who are a part of the A.G.E.N.D.A, those who I am talking to. And the three principles are pretty simple, and I'm going to explain them in depth today. The first principle is to resegregate. I made that word up. I know it may not be a word, but there is a twist to that dynamic, that principle. Resegregation in the terms I speak of regards, removing ourselves first mentally and, if possible, physically from the presence of those who oppress us and who mean us no good. These folks don't have our interests at heart. They've proven this by what they've done recently, how they've expressed their views through their elected officials. And quite frankly, it is a danger to all of us, and one that I have now committed to expressing to all of you. And so the first principle involves removing ourselves from their presence, both mentally and, if possible, physically. Not engage. The second principle involves, as we probably can ascertain, the self-education. And self-education is extremely important. The self-education involves making sure that we educate ourselves. We don't look into the mouths of the folks spewing our history from their point of view. It makes absolutely no sense. And so the second principle involves self-education, making sure that we check the facts. That's why I call myself the Black Fact Checker. We need to check the facts, folks, because things aren't right. Something ain't right. That's why I'm here. And the third most important principle in my estimation is do no harm. We must commit to do no harm to one another. And my co-host, who is on the phone with me right now, who I will definitely let on the air just shortly here, he wanted to make sure that we pointed out and made it understood we're talking about doing no harm to one another, the progeny of slaves. Everyone else, fair game. Don't touch us. Don't put your hands on us. Don't expect that we won't respond in kind. That is not what we ascribe. We're not a passive group here. We're a group that will protect ourselves, but do no harm involves, of course, no harm to each other. Now, Devon is on the phone with me. I'm going to put him on speaker. Devon, how you doing? Hope folks.
Hey, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. Now, I know I gave you a way to get in here, the host call in. Were you having a problem with that?
Yes, I was, man. When I called the line,
Yeah.
they said it was only one occupant per call, so they wouldn't let me get through for some reason.
Okay.
You were already online. So.
Well, you know what, Devon? It's okay. I believe that the folks can hear you perfectly. It sounds like a call-in, which is just fine with me. I'm just starting out doing exactly just to give everybody a heads up, as I've already segued into it. Devon Smith is my co-host with this program. We call it the Amos A. Nunn program, but it's not. Please don't think it's some ego trip. Amos A. Nunn is a play on words. It really plays on the term anonymous, which is what myself and Mr. Smith have determined to remain, because we're not going to give you a target. We're not going to give you a target. You're not going to get one. So we've just determined that we're going to stay anonymous. And so that's what Amos A. Nunn is. Devon Smith, the co-host, brings to the show, in my estimation, a spirituality, a need to refer to the scripture. My strength is the more secular, kind of giving it to you from the point of view of what's happening. He dovetails in with some spiritual and scriptural backing, and also other writings that I think will blow some folks' mind. We are intending to blow the minds of the listeners, and I would say we're going to do a good job. Devon, go ahead and introduce yourself and let them know what your intent is. They can hear you just fine.
Yes, sir. Like the host, Amos, have already explained, my name is Devon Smith. I'm co-hosting this show. And my involvement includes and covers more of the spiritual aspect of what we need to understand behind the original topic that we speak on. So we are just really feeding off each other and building a way for our people to communicate this information and articulate this information without being limited to one-sided views. We trying to present all the facts, and I'm here to make sure that I cover the spiritual side of it, that our people, further their thinking and open their minds a little bit, and hopefully this will help.
Exactly. And please don't understand as well. Not only are we not creating a camp, we don't promote camps involvement, because we have our opinion and it'll be known, and I'm sure that there'll be folks that want to call in and give us their response to our opinions on camp. But let me first give folks the guest call-in number, because I'm promoting this. We're hoping to have folks call in. We don't need them to call in, folks. I can tell you right now, I can talk enough for about 10, 12 people. So if no one calls in the first few shows, Devon, don't even worry about it. We have plenty to say, and plenty folks will have to listen. But here's the call-in. If you're interested in calling in, the number is 563-999-3653. Again, if you want to call, talk to Amos, talk to Devon, comment on what we talk about, the call-in number here, again, is 563-999-3653. So I'm going to head into the first portion of my of the show here, and what we're going to be covering, now that I've introduced you, giving you the principal characters, what we're doing, Devon, myself, I'm going to cover some information regarding the three principles, and then Mr. Smith is going to come back, and he's going to cover the spiritual aspect of those three principles, and that's how we've determined we'll take care of this first broadcast. So let me get going. I'm going to give Devon enough time to get himself settled in, And what you can do is just give me a call back in about 15 minutes, Devon, as you hear me. Maybe you could tune in, or maybe you can listen in on your phone. If not, give me a call back about 9:20 my time, and then we'll get you on the air so you save your phone battery. Fair enough?
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, let me get into it here, folks. Here we go. The agenda. Let me talk about it. The agenda. Now, when you have an agenda, you have a purpose, you have an outline, a guide, a goal, if you will. And so in thinking up the acronym, as I said at the beginning of the show, there's a lot of talk regarding where folks originate from on this planet. And the only folks that don't have an origin, a country of origin, not a continent of origin, but a country of origin, are those taken as slaves through the transatlantic slave trade. There's no tracing back. There's no definitive proof. I don't care what people tell you about these different West African countries. The facts point to a wandering group of people of color throughout the continent of Africa who, in fact, were Hebrew descendants. And though we'll get into that at some later date, I'm sure Devon will cover some of that information. The fact of the matter is that puts us in a unique position. The fact is we are the only group of people that can't claim a homeland. I want to let that sink in. So that's the agenda, the Association of Geographically Enslaved Negro Descendants of the Americas. And that's who I'm talking to. I'm not talking to anybody else, okay? So get over it. Get through it. I don't care, okay? Now, I'm going to take the principles one by one because I want, I just don't want there to be any confusion about what it is I'm trying to promote. What the promotion of the three principles are so simple and can be executed without having to together some sort of gang mentality, which is basically what I call camps, gang mentality. We're not talking about that, folks, okay? We're just talking about three principles that we as the progeny of slaves can live by regarding each other. And the first, as I've said, resegregate. Now, when I first came up with resegregate, yes, my thought was, let's get away from these folks that don't like us. And they express how much they don't like us every single day. We read it in the news. Kid mowing his lawn gets the cops called on him. Guy sitting in Starbucks waiting for somebody gets the cops called on him. Police officers shooting young black men in the back because they're in fear of their lives. I don't know how to understand that you can shoot somebody in the back and be in fear of your lives. Okay, so the fact of the matter is, folks, the folks that are in power, the dominant society that's in power, the white people that are in power, let's just talk about it, they don't like people of color. They've expressed this by who they've put in office, and he's expressed it by who he's put in the judicial appointees. We're in dire straits. If you don't understand that what's going on is a setup to control us in a manner beyond the 60s and the 50s, you guys are walking around with blinders on. They don't like us, period, point blank. My first thought in coming up with resegregation was separating ourselves from them. But you know what? It's impossible because we're less than 12% of the population, actually a little bit more, 12% population. So we can't get away from them. But what you can do is you can distance yourself from them mentally. You can segregate yourself mentally from them. The one thing that I've learned is we are not like them. As a people, we are not greedy, we are not violent, we are not murderous, we are not jealous. We are forgiving, spiritually minded individuals. And if you don't think so, take a look at what black people have had to put up with in this country for hundreds of years. And yet we still want to be your goddamn friends. That's right. I said it. The majority of us still want to get along with you, despite your murder, despite the fact that you hang and shoot us, despite the fact that you discriminate against us and prove in every way that you have no intent of treating us fairly or equally. I say we need to separate from you. And if we can't do it physically, we have to do it mentally. We have to get out of your thought process. You have infected us with your actions and activities and the way you look at things and view things. And we have to remember that we're not you. Sorry, we're not. What happened was you took a group of people, you enslaved them, stripped them of their identity, their religion, their values, their culture, and you handed them your culture, which they imitate perfectly. And so you look at inner city urban areas where brothers and sisters are going mad, killing each other. And I look at it, I say, well, that's certainly not us, because you couldn't enslave a group of people that wild. So obviously we are good learners. Obviously we imitate well. And so the first principle involves reversing that, getting away from that, looking at it objectively and understanding, hey, when we act the way we do, we must be conscious of how we are acting, who we are imitating. Are we imitating a violent, vile, murderous, hateful, racist group of people that have captured us here and kept us here and then told us we have an equal opportunity to do what they do and do everything to make sure we don't? It's a lie, folks. So why grin in the face of the liar? Why imitate the actions of the deceiver? That's my question. That's my point. And so resegregation truly involves staying out of their faces, not grinning and smiling. Why make them comfortable? Let them know that you are conscious. There is no reason that you can't establish a serious mental footing with people and let them know, I am not you. You are not me. Resegregation, a mental separation, is what I'm talking about. I think it defines it a bit better, and I think it makes it a more obtainable and reachable goal. The second principle, self-education, is it's self-evident what I'm talking about. You know, you go into schools and you're taught the history of the United States. You're taught that the United States was built to, accommodate all groups of people who want a way to get ahead in life and succeed. And that's total bullshit. The United States was built for white men, by white men, and they just let white women in just here recently. Let's just talk, let's say what it is. And if we stop looking at things as we hope they are and as opposed to as they actually are, I think we'll get a clearer understanding of what it is we're trying to accomplish. So when I talk about self-education, I'm talking about examining what it is you're being told as opposed to just accepting what it is you're being told and understanding that the history is written by the victors. So, of course, they're going to play down their role in the obscenities and vile conduct they've committed over so many years. And they want us to forget about slavery while they protect their Confederate statues and flags. It's a one-sided argument. And if you accept their version of history, you're going to be in a bad way. You need to look at where we've come from. You need to examine the facts that they present against the facts that you examine, the facts that you divulge. That's why I call the black fact checker. The final principle, do no harm, I want to spend a little time on that. I want to get in depth with do no harm because in my estimation, the best was saved for last. Principle of do no harm involves committing yourself as the progeny of black slaves, as the progeny of slaves in this country in the Americas, is to never lift your hands in harm to another person of color ever. That principle is key to this movement because it sends a message to those that mean us no good and lets them know there's a change afoot. There's something different. There's a new dynamic. They've committed to not harming each other physically. We can disagree, we can argue, we can rant, we can rave, but what we can't do, folks, what we can't do is harm each other physically. If we commit to those principles, specifically that primary do no harm principle, it's just my belief that we'll be able to, at that point, yield from our own conscience our true character, which has nothing to do with theirs. And I don't care what anybody says. These imitators, we call them coons, these bald-faced individuals that flood the media saying they represent folks like you and me can kiss my black ass. They don't represent me because they're not saying the right things. So I want everybody to understand where I'm coming from. It's real simple, folks. What I'm doing is I'm calling a 911. This is 911, folks. There is no other way to call this. If you're not looking at the political climate, if you're not observant of your spiritual needs, then you're probably going to miss the mark. And I don't mean miss the mark in some religious way. I'm talking about you're going to be asleep when moves are made against us. And if you don't think that moves can be made against black people, you better start looking at what they're doing to brown people at the border. Again, my name is Amos A. Nunn, not my real name. I am the Incog-Negro. I am the black fact checker. If you want to call, if you want to say something to me, you can call me at 563-999-3653. I now will be turning over the floor to my co-host, who I think is going to bring some great information to the fore here. Let me see if I can get him on. Okay, Devon, I've done with my explanation of the three principles. What I'm going to do is I'm gonna let you have the floor, and about quarter till I'll get it back again, and we'll see which way the wind is blowing. I don't know if you were able to listen, but I covered the agenda, the three principles, and we'll get the technical glitches out of the way. It's not a big deal. I say press on. And with that, folks, I give you my co-host and my spiritual advisor and co-host, Devon Smith. Devon, take it away, man.
Good evening. Thank you, brother. Ladies and gentlemen, as you already heard, my dear brother has already covered the three principles that we're promoting, and we're extending our arms and our love to our brothers to please pay attention and take to heart what we're speaking on. I cover more of the spiritual side of things, and speaking of what we are pushing for today, and hoping that our people would soon learn to understand, to take heed to, and bring the urgency to everyone of what's needed to be done in our country to free the minds of our people and the enslavement of our people. Because the Father already gave us the word that this can be done and will be done. So with that, let me begin by saying all praises to the Most High that guide and bless our words, our steps, and our hearts. Amen. With that being said, I want to take a little time and give you a little piece of the Jubilee year, just a couple of verses. Our scripture, Leviticus 25, for anybody who's listening that want to follow me when I'm speaking of. I want to start in verse 10, Leviticus 25, verse 10. And the fathers, through Moses, is explaining to us how do we become back to the place where our forefathers, made mistakes with political things and understanding and not having the full knowledge of what their ancestors left. This is the problem that's continuously going on today with our people. And we're here to put a stop to that. So to go into this, for all that has insight on Leviticus 25, I said we're in verse 10, and I shall read. And ye shall hallow the 50th year, which is the Jubilee year, and proclaim liberty throughout the land unto all the inhabitants thereof. And it shall be a jubilee unto you, and shall return every man into his possession, and he shall return every man into his family. Brothers and sisters, to break down this simple little statement, to make you understand how big this really is. Every 50 years, our nation and all nations and all governments are to do a national audit. This is what this is telling us in so many words. The whole scripture, not just what I read, but I'm trying to point out something, so I will point that out. But the Jubilee year covers a national audit of Hebrew people, mainly our people. This book was wrote for Hebrew people. It includes, the Messiah includes all people that have understanding and knowledgeable of the commandments to follow and come join. But this was initially created for the Hebrew people, the slaves and the descendants of the slaves, about our inheritance. What I just read to you, I will continue to the next verse. Verse 11, a jubilee shall the 50th year be unto you. You shall not sow, neither reap that which groweth of itself in it, nor gather the grapes in it of the vineyard. To dumb it down, to modernize it a little bit in case you don't follow that. The Father is telling us we are not allowed to labor for 364 days for ourselves or for another foreign entity. The Saturday Sabbath is a preparation, and each Saturday that passes, that our people don't recognize their duties in that day to connect with the Father and spend their time and meditate on the Father's word, they lacking the information and the knowledge of years and years of work that the Father been doing on his people. All of the people that have been following this already understand what I do. So I'm not, it's not like I'm exposing something that's new. It's just, it needs to be explained in a way that our people can comprehend it. A lot of our elders have a way of kind of beating around the bush, jumping around, don't want to touch on the subjects that we here today will be touching on. A slight snippet of the couple of verses that I read to you was to get you to understand, as Hebrew people, we are under holy covenant. And this holy covenant can be renewed any time our elders violate this covenant or fail to understand their duties. And the covenant is everlasting. It never changes. What it needs to be as time goes on is things need to be reinforced the same way Christ reinforced things that Moses did. He made sure he concreted the understanding where you can't get around it. And that's what we're going to do today, using the politics and my brother Amos angle. And I'm going to shed a little light on the things that I understand spiritually, that our people must comprehend, free us. We must self-educate, we must separate, and we must do no harm to our brothers doing this. Our job and our duty as sons of the Most High God, the creator of heaven and earth, is to bless our brothers and sisters with understanding, with comprehension, and with the ability to carry out their duties as they're supposed to bring our families and our people forward and the knowledge that the Father has left here for us. And politically, our people have been getting brainwashed decade to decade under policies that the American government has created out of falsehood. And we want to just clarify, me, myself, I'm going to clarify these things that our people are participating in that is frowned upon, I'm sure, by the Most High for our people.
Not to interrupt you, brother, but we have a caller, and let me see if I can get him to the line. Just bear with me.
Yes, sir.
Hold on. Caller, my apologies. This is our first broadcast, and so I did not mean to keep you on hold. How can I help you?
Hello?
Yes, how are you? Welcome to the Amos A. Nunn Show. I'm Amos A. Nunn. You're on the phone with my co-host, Devon Smith. We thank you for listening. How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing beautiful, God. I give God all the glory and the praises. I was just calling because I was very interested in as far as what you guys, what's on your agenda and what are you trying to, as far as put out there into the universe of colored people, as far as God, and when you said the elderly, and then when you saying about what God put out there and how Jesus Christ, I guess, pretty much came along and was doing the same teaching as Moses. But at the same time, I'm listening. I'm very interested because it's very interesting to know more, like they say. The more you know and the more knowledge that you pick up, the more that you can understand and identify with God, you know. And
now, what caller? What is your name? I'm so sorry, I didn't catch your name.
My name is Sister Sheila.
Sister Sheila, I think that question was more for Devon because I'm sorry I didn't get it on speaker for you quick enough, Devon. I'm working on their handicap, but she was interested to know what we're going to bring to the table for folks of color. I don't know if she caught the first half. I'll tell you the short answer, or the answer I got the best for you, dear. And the focus for me to bring this was to alert people of color that there is a shift, a political, sociological shift that has occurred in our faces that is not in our favor and is more than anything against us. And it started in the Obama years, as we all know, but now it's become pronounced in who they've appointed to the White House, and now the White House's appointments to the courts. And the most dangerous aspect of this entire thing is that we've got Justice Kennedy about to leave his post, and now this creature that's in the White House has the opportunity to appoint another Supreme Court justice that will affect our futures for 40 to 50 years, something that he stated. Now, here's the thing. A lot of timelines are dovetailing here. There are folks that say 400 years of slavery ends next year, prophetically. I neither agree nor disagree. I say I know nothing. I'm an open book, which is why Devon is here, to kind of chattel me in. But there are others that say, you know, the prophecy is being fulfilled right in front of us, that, you know, the wars and rumors of wars, the volcanic activity, the celestial activity. I don't know. But what I do know is that they are gathering people of color up and separating their children from their parents. They've done that. They're not scared to put people in internment camps. They've built them everywhere. Now, I don't want you to think I'm a person that is I'm not a conspiracy theorist. What I do is I've taken in enough information to know that we may need to do a few things to protect ourselves, and that's why I've come up with the agenda. 3 simple things is what I'm bringing to answer your question. I want us to segregate, and in that I mean to mentally separate ourselves from the folks that mean us no good. We also need to self-educate. Oh, yes, I'm so sorry, yes. And here's Devon's sister.
Okay, thank you.
About something that our people are dealing with right now, that a lot of our people really don't have understanding about, dealing with the labor and the work and employment that we have in America right now today. Years ago, over 10 decades ago, our people were tricked out of this land. Tricked. Not given over, not just gave, but they were tricked out of this land, out of their property, out of their possessions, all of it. From that time that this has actually happened, and during the years of, I'll say 1913 through about 1929, they start pulling the perception that our ancestors left us, that were here, that were in the mud, so to speak, up to their knees in slavery, that understood what was being done and what would come in the future by the things that were being done in their time. Mainly to get back to what I'm saying, the financial position that our people are in of color is a direct violation of the commandment. We are in the Jubilee year. The Jubilee year consists of 364 days by the Enoch calendar. With that being said, the Father has given us 365 days to organize ourselves for an Exodus. Or the churches are not teaching this because they are part of the deception.
Now, wait. Let me follow up on that. I want you to understand what he's saying. And here's the thing: the United States government works on odds. It works on a system of odds, like almost gambling. And if you don't think that they're preparing for whatever may occur, then you know you're not in the United States. So we as a people, I think, owe it to ourselves to pay attention to every possibility. And what this brother is saying, that we have a 364-day period to gather ourselves together and prepare ourselves for an exodus, that if you're not looking around, something big is coming. Something big is coming, sister.
Hey, brother, to add to what you're saying about the exodus, to clarify my point in what I'm saying, the Exodus doesn't necessarily only include us leaving this land. The Exodus starts with us gathering ourselves in this land. So the first step in this is getting our people all on board and understanding what the Most High has told us all to do. And having our elders sit down and stop the bickering and the complaining and the jousting and wanting to be right, trying to prove who's wrong. We don't have to do any of that anymore. We have better understanding because of the teachings that's been handed down from our elders and our ancestors decade to decade.
Okay.
What's going on?
Okay, so what is the plan?
Hold on, brother. Go ahead, man. Go ahead, sister.
Okay, so what is the plan that you foresee?
Well, let me tell you that it starts with getting people to listen. The first thing we need to do, and that involves the three principles that I'm talking about. And sister, just to give you a heads up, I actually do have a detailed plan. But the one thing I've noticed is that they tend to make a target of people who have any aspirations toward leaving. I know that.
What that is? Sorry, just to reiterate on what you're saying.
Go.
Our people have a habit of not supporting their own people with sound and logical ideas that will propel our people forward. This is something that needs to stop immediately.
Right.
Because as you can see, we had leaders come before us with valuable knowledge that we still use to this day, and we still can refer to this day and quote from to this day, that have been killed because our people were not intuitive enough to follow and protect the leaders that the Father will put here to help bring us forward.
Yeah. So, but let me expand on that, which is why I tell you the ultimate goal, sister, is that we first separate ourselves first mentally from these folks that most of us grin and cheese in their face. And the fact of the matter is, most of us don't want to do that. Most of us don't want to take the step of possibly alienating our quote-unquote white friends. But the fact of the matter is, unless we all get on the same page mentally, unless we all have a serious countenance, unless we are able to deliver in their face, I don't want to buck and step, dance, play ball. I don't want to do any of that to make you feel at ease. What I do is I don't smile. I look you in the eye when I talk to you, and I'm serious when I speak. And what most folks, black people don't want to do that to white people because they know it makes them uncomfortable. Ourselves first mentally and then physically, if possible. The second is self-educate. The second, self-educate. Don't believe what they tell you. Don't believe the stories. Don't tell. And for God's sake, when they tell you we need to forget about slavery, well, I'll forget about slavery when every Confederate statue and every Confederate flag and the KKK is listed as a terrorist organization. Then I'll forget about slavery. See, these type of education. And the third and most important thing we bring, sister, is the principle that we will do no harm to one another. That's the most important, because if we begin to act on that principle of do no harm, first, the killings would stop. Chicago that would be done. But we're not talking about some pious religious nonsense. I'm not talking about that. And my brother knows, he knows where I'm coming from. It has nothing to do with him. The reason he's here is to balance my abrasiveness off, okay? But my point is that unless we do those three things, we have to start with those three things. We have to separate mentally from these white folk. We've got to educate ourselves and not believe what the people who won history write about history. And the most important principle is that we commit and live by is that we will not lift our hands against another person of color, against another captive. And if we do that, sister, that third principle, then these folks will begin to get a bit nervous. Because if we stop killing each other, each other, and we tell each other, hey, man, I live by the principle. We can argue. We can disagree. I can call you all kind of names, but you know the agenda, the principle I live by. I cannot, as a black person, as a person of color, as a captive in this society like you, I cannot raise my hand against you. I have to walk away. Catch like wildfire. And if you understand, brother, I'm sorry, sister, do you understand? That's what we bring, sister. That's what I'm trying to promote. The agenda is simple.
Yeah.
Separate ourselves from them mentally. Don't be like them. We're not like them. Second.
Okay, when you say, excuse me, hello? Okay,
yes,
like when you say separate ourselves, okay, I kind of pretty much understand when you say separate yourself as far as when you have a conversation with a Caucasian person and you are a woman of color, and pretty much it's like you don't have to agree with them, but at the same time you let them know where you coming from, where you stand, and that what they trying to put on you, that you don't agree with that. And pretty much like, you know, really in so much words that you have to pick up your identity of who you are as a colored person and not go on the agenda of following the leader, like they say, like trying to be something else or mimic something else or be programmed or be brainwashed to be something that you really not.
That's right.
To pick up who your true identity are.
Let me tell you something. You have hit it on the head. You have to be conscious in their face. Is that a brother? Devon, let me let Devon speak. Go ahead, Devon. What were you saying?
Oh no, y'all covered it. You have to be conscious, and she nailed it on the head.
She nailed it.
We have to be aware of our position day to day.
Yes.
And the policies and the politics that our people are accepting to live by. We have to recognize and sit down with our elders to make a point of this. Because whether our people realize this or not, our elders play a significant part in making this come about. This is why so many burdens and tricks and trickology has been played on them, because they knew that generation would be the generation in the front that would lead New Israel. And it's not because they're more important than anybody else? No, the timing of this. That biblical aspects alone. We can go into Revelations 12.
Well, listen, folks, hold on. Listen, caller, I have to let you go because we're on a time clock here, but we appreciate your support. I want you to look for Amos A. Nunn. I want you to look for AmosANunn.com. That website is under construction. I want you to tell your friends. I want you to share this because, sister, what I did was I figured, along with the folks that helped put this together, we just dumbed this down. We're not going to complicate this with 25, laws and bylaws and there are three things, the agenda. And the agenda, I'm talking to these specific people. My sister, I'll tell you again, I'm talking to the Association of Geographically Enslaved Negro Descendants of the Americas. That means I'm talking to the Mexicans in South America that happen to be black and speak Spanish and come from the slave trade. That means I'm talking about black people from the Dominican Republic. I'm talking about black people everywhere in the Americas who know their ancestors originated with the slave trade. And there are three simple principles. Resegregate your mind, your position, your physicality if you have to. Get the hell away from them. They mean you no good. If you don't believe me, watch them. The second principle, self-educate. Stop reading and believing what they believe you. Study, get in a book, and make it more than the Bible. And the last and final thing, do no harm, commit to do no harm to each and every one of those descendants, the captives that are here. And if we put those principles into practice, and we have telling other people, I'm following the agenda. I'm doing no harm, brother. That will catch like wildfire, and that will begin what we're supposed to be doing during this Jubilee year, which is preparing for an exit, and that's important. So, I mean,
we appreciate your call.
We really appreciate your call, sister, and please call in again. We'll be doing this at least once every Sunday, 9 o'clock, and if we do it more, we'll make the announcement. We do appreciate your call. Okay, dear?
Okay. Well, thank you. Peace.
You are welcome, and thank you, and shalom, sister. You too. All right, so we thank you. That was our first caller, and I know that we've got about 40 minutes or so left. I know that you were still, it's good to hear that people are listening. It's good to hear.
Yes, it is.
It's good to hear that people are listening because that's important, and it's a good thing. So. Go ahead and continue where you were. I think you were on the second principle. You were dovetailing in how the principles are actually preparing us for the Exodus in this Jubilee year. That, at least it's the beginning stages. So continue, please.
Yes. Continue. To reiterate on what I was speaking before, politically speaking, from the aspect of a political understanding, our people cannot accept what the white government and the white America, not to put a color thing on it, because I don't do the hate thing. I'm not a racist, but I do understand the pressure and the bondage that's been put on our people. And believe it or not, a lot of the young Gentile brothers and sisters understand as well. The thing that's the problem with that crowd is they're not able to promote and stop what their ancestors did wrong. They have to follow suit. And this is where our people must come in and comprehend, where we must stand for our own people. We don't need anybody else to do that for us. And to shed a little light, to do no harm. Brothers and sisters, we come from different walks of life. Some people done lived life where they had no burdens. Other people live their lives where they had nothing but burdens, financial troubles, family troubles, being in the public around certain people in certain environments, geographical locations. We're dealing with different things. And my point is this: have an open mind when you come to the platform. Keep your mind open to your brothers and your sisters that's speaking, because we are shedding light and they are shedding light on everything we see today. We don't have to constantly go into the past and pick up a book and read about something that was wrote over 4,000 years ago to make logical sense of what we see today. The preparation our ancestors and our elders were preparing us for in the book of Revelations. The exact chapter 13 is about the AI technology that we see today that has enslaved humanity. This is the prophecy that John was trying to explain the best way he could in his time with the words that he understood that would project his vision to us in these later days because he's seeing it coming. Now, what you have to understand living in our time today, this is what you need to know, brothers and sisters. There has already been an artificial God created from the work of the Gentiles that everybody in the world is about to be subjugated into sharing worship with. This is the avenue that we need to wake our people up on, to do no harm, to speak on this again. We're not bringing any drama to our people. This is something that will be the last thing ever mentioned on what we're doing. And also, you have to understand what they created the AI system for, brothers and sisters. The RFID chip everybody is walking around with right now. Oh, yes. Oh, you don't have to have it in your hand. You have a cell phone, right? You have a computer, right? You're already logged into the system. You're already part of the deception. Our problem, our people's problem is they don't want to let go of what is ailing them. And the electronics, no, I'm not saying electronics are bad. Don't put that in your head. What I'm telling you is it's being used for the wrong reasons in our country. And it's being used to enslave you to pretty much support their agenda of making everyone slaves. This stuff goes a lot deeper than the politics, brothers and sisters. We talking about the most high here and what has been passed down to us for thousands of years. And it's just culminating now. Everything that Satan has put forth through his people, through his minions on this earth to carry out his plan and his vision is coming to fruition now. I want brothers and sisters to understand why President Trump made this announcement and signed into law the bill about the slaves being freed in 2019. Brothers and sisters, you got to understand something with this thing he did. Yes, it's a law now that by law we will be separate people. Everyone identifies that way. The problem with it is the law has already been changed. We looking at the law change now. Look at our Muslim brothers and our brothers, our immigrant brothers and sisters coming in. You see what they're dealing with, right? Now, if our brothers follow this vision created by white America, saying like we waiting for them to free us or something, that's completely absurd. The Father's timing, you have to look at. Now, if you look in reality and you use your logics and common sense, and you speak to brothers and sisters right now, you start realizing it's more of our brothers and sisters woke and understand what needs to be done. They just don't know what to do. They're willing, they're able, but they don't know what to do. Like my brother Amos explained before, we have 3 principles. Do no harm is what I'm trying to speak on and shed light on in different areas, so it won't just be a tunnel vision thing. I want you to open your minds a little bit to understand how our government has parlayed on the things that they created to make them continuously go, long as our people don't understand the trickery and the politics. Because this trickery been going on for a long time. And brothers and sisters, we are not the first generation of Hebrew people that recognize this. A lot of our ancestors during the Jubilee years they were in, before we ever existed, they understood these policies. And every time one of our brothers raised up in the past, what happened? They got exterminated. Why? Because our people didn't rally behind them. See, good ideas deserve support. When we putting forth ideas, any brother, any sister, I wouldn't care where they came from. If the Father put somebody in front of you, and it's a sound and just idea that's fair to all people, not just our people, because like I said before, we're not racist. Hebrew people, we didn't invent that. That's not nothing we understand. What we are is victims of it. So what we want to do is completely get ourselves out this picture. We're not going to allow ourselves to carry the stereotypes, to carry the ideas of foreign entities. We're going to stick to what our ancestors gave us that works, that's unchanged, and will not change for not one generation. Our people have to get their comprehension up right. And the problem mainly is employment. Think about it, brothers and sisters. If you got family members, mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters working 12, 16 hours a day, they don't have the time or the energy to sit down when they come home and they just trying to relax and get their body back right. How can a person study diligently and cover a lot in your day if most of your day is going chasing money? You hear these young guys say, yeah, I'm going to get the bag, I'm going to get this, I'm going to get that. But in reality, where is the money going when they get it? It goes right back into their system. This goes with the Jubilee year. The Father is trying to get us to stop spending our money with these foreigners that benefits us at all. They do nothing for our people, none of our kids. We get bottom fed and eating the least off the plate of the intellectuals. Only because we are elders, I hate to say it, but speaking on the truth, our elders kind of don't have all of the stuff together. You can tell by how they move. If they were cohesive and collective and pushing forth this Jubilee understanding, our people would not be in this position because we would all understand. With that being said, we're here to teach. It's not too late. We're not going to give up on our people. We're not going to down our people. We're going to raise our brothers and sisters up. We're starting intellectually. Separation of the mind. You have to separate yourself. And brothers and sisters, this doesn't happen overnight. This takes time. That's why it was important for us to raise our kids at an early age, staying mindful and staying focused on the Father's word, because it's logical thought. See, the religious brothers and sisters, they want to put a religious spin on it. No, it's logical thought. Once you understand something logical, that's no way you cannot understand it where you can comprehend it. Brothers and sisters, listen. This book can be taught to us all over again, because what we've been getting taught, I don't blame our elders. They were misled. We have to realize these things before we approach our elders, because our elders are important right now. We need them to do their job, because what's happening is the Father is watching them. And every day that goes past in this Jubilee year, 364 days, that our elders and our peers fail to do their jobs to gather our people, re-educate our people, separate our people, and do no harm to our people, is another day lost that we will never get back. And this is what white America is banking on. This is what they banked on in the 60s. Let me remind you, brothers and sisters, that we had a group of Israelite men and women and children leave the Americas and headed back to Jerusalem, and they still there now, flourishing. Yeah, they have some things they're dealing with politically, but guess what? They have not been uprooted from that land of our forefathers. So you have to understand what the remnant is. That's the remnant. the Father put the remnant of our people there. And just to reiterate on that, it was 70 people altogether that left. The population over there has grown. 3 to 4 generations of Israelite Hebrew men and women are over there, flourishing. They don't want you to know this. They want you to see the bad stuff that's happening with their people. The misunderstanding of religion from Christianity, from Judaism, and from Islam, that our people are fighting over, not understanding how to interact with each other peacefully. That's nothing to do with us. That has absolutely nothing to do with our people, and our people are not to be involved in it at all. That is the destruction of Babylon. For the president to move the capital to Jerusalem, he's doing nothing but fulfilling prophecy, brothers and sisters. We know that, right? So with that being said, the destruction is next. And what do you think is more important to focus on when we speak on destruction? Is it a building or is it a people? See, white America wants you to focus on buildings, artifacts, dead bodies and bones, Egyptian mummies, and dumb crap that means nothing. It's throwing your vision and your focus off. Yes, it's important to know. To make that the main objective is to constantly send visuals to our people about the same thing over and over again, never building on it. Our people ain't growing. No one is growing spiritually. The government on down is pushing racism, brothers and sisters. You can get on the internet at any time, on any site, and you see how many videos are being posted of our people being harassed, beaten, or killed by white society. Now, like I said, what do we look like sitting here letting this stuff happen to our people, our sons and daughters, our mothers and fathers, our grandparents? What we look like subjugating ourselves to things like this, and we understand the scripture and what it says for us to do. And that's the thing that's important for us to understand. To get away from the religious aspect altogether, common sense should tell our people that we need to gather ourselves, literally. All of our people that continue going to work in white America is willingly accepting the deception. I know it's very hard to do because the first thought a person gonna have, how I'm gonna live, how I'm gonna pay my bills. If the Father told us to let this stuff go, why would our people continue to try to hold on to it for dear life? And he explained to us he's giving us something better. Now, if you don't research what the better is he's offering us, you'll never know. You'll never get it. You have to understand these lessons that our people been teaching us and passing down to us for decades and centuries. This is what the whole world is following. Our ancestors. They can put their spins, they can make religions out of it, but it doesn't change what the facts of the matter are. Our people are enslaved in America, mentally and physically. And we trying to break them bonds to put out without no bias at all, without holding back, to let our people know that today is the day that we raise ourselves out of the slumps that we've been put in politically through these people. And of course, in later shows, I will point out specific things. This is our first broadcast, and we're just trying to cover as much as we can with the time we have to reiterate on the 3 goals that we have for our people. And as my brother said, he has a plan laid out already for our people. And we're open to suggestions. Absolutely. We don't think we know it all. Sure don't. We don't think we're the smartest people in the world or we have it all figured out. No, brother.
We want to get something done. At least start. Let me get to. We're running out of time a little bit, so let me.
Okay.
I want to thank you for that eloquent and well put analogy. We're going to go more and in depth. But with little time left, I want to take just the opportunity to go over the third principle, which I thought was extremely important. Again, Devon had mentioned that we should cover it considerably. We have about 20 minutes left. So that the principle of do no harm, and the reason I find that to be probably the most impactful of the principles of the agenda is because it's not only does it send a mental message to each one of us, but it also sends a message to those that more or less not to see us do well, and they're out there. The fact is if we stopped hurting one another, if we stopped injuring one another, if we stopped being tough, if you will, with one another. I spoke to a group of youngsters a while back, and I was trying to think of a way to put their anger in check. I was thinking about it. So I thought about it, Devin, and what I did was I said, listen, I don't know if you're aware, but maybe you don't know, your very existence is a testimony to your toughness. In other words, the fact that you are alive and breathing in front of me and in front of each other is in itself a testament to your badassness, because the numbers don't lie. All the odds against your being here are high. I can go through it from the trip your ancestor took, to the survival of the conditioning of slavery itself, to the perils of existing in a slave state, death at any time, to the disease, to all the things that could have gone wrong to eliminate your being here, did in fact go right, and now you are here. So you don't have to walk around now, especially with each other. We don't have to. There is no reason to be angry. There's no reason. That's one of their traits. All the things that we do typically that people associate with us, those things are the things they associate with the people that taught us those things. It's not us. I told them, listen, we're not a violent people. Here's the deal. They had a group of people here that they could have enslaved. Why didn't they? Because the natives that were here were impossible to subjugate. They killed themselves, and you first. So the fact that we are not the type of people that they've made us to be through conditioning, through imitation, through forced education. So what I'm trying to do, that's a part of the separation, but it plays into do no harm. We don't have to walk around mad or suspect at each other. We don't have to walk around wanting to do something to each other, because, quite frankly, the fact that we're around is a testament to our toughness.
Yes, it is. And also understand that what's in the book of Revelation about the 12 gates, the Father is explaining to us, our people are coming from different places. They're all not going to come through Judah.
Yeah, you had mentioned that. You had mentioned that earlier. Yeah, expand on that. You had mentioned that. What was that about? You said, are people come?
Well, you go into the book, and the Father explains to us there's 12 gates for 12 different regional people that have the understanding that were taught to their descendants through our ancestors. They're all pointing to the same thing. And the reason why I bring this up, because I hear our brothers and sisters arguing over names of the Messiah, names of the Father, this, that, and the other. Y'all got to understand, this was done to throw you off and to make you think or to give up on the search for the truth. We don't want to concentrate on stuff like that. We want to concentrate more on the understanding that was taught through the Messiah to the world, and reiterate on the things that he already done. We're not doing anything new. We're simply bringing to life what's been buried, that our people have lost understanding about because of the indoctrination in America. I've spoken to so many brothers and sisters that are enlightened individuals, but they missing certain knowledge. And this certain knowledge was designed for you not to have it. And the Father has put on his elected that are spread throughout the world, because they're not all in America. They're spread everywhere. He's put on them chosen few people on their hearts to be leaders and lead us back into this understanding.
Let me interject and ask those. I'm pretty sure those individuals aren't the ones we see on TV talking supporting this system. Because this system, look, here's the reason I'm pissed off. And anybody with half a brain, as James Baldwin said, any black man, any conscious black man is in a rage most of the time, okay? The fact of the matter is we got these coons that get on TV and talk about how they support black people and do everything they can to placate the white folks that are screwing us around in the first place. And it's obscene. Here's the deal, man. I mean, let me ask you a question. I point to this because it's a good question. Why did these white folks pick up tiki torches? Why did these white folks in khaki pants go to Home Depot and get a tiki torch? People that that hang around black people every day, go to work with them. These aren't these typical KKK inbred white folks that marching in Charlotte. These were some kids, 20s and 30s, that felt somehow alienated enough and emboldened enough to pick up a torch and march like they're a mob of the KKK. Bro, that says something about the fabric, the mental fabric of this country, man. It says something, man, that underlying attitude you whites have. That's dangerous to know that could spark like that. So it tells me that they can angle two different ways. They can say, hey, we're going to put you somewhere for your safety. Or the response you've had to people that are putting their hands on you, namely killing up people, now we're going to just lock all of you up. And we've practiced doing it because we locked up some brown people when they tried to come in the country. Because why? Because we want this to be a whites-only country. That's what they are telling people. That's what their actions. We don't want people from Mexico. How about some people from Norway?
How about our brothers from Africa? How about our brothers from we have brothers and sisters everywhere, and I'm not just talking about the brothers and sisters that have the same skin colors as we do.
Oh no!
The Father has planted people in every race here that's for His calling. This is the only way that would make sense of what Christ said, that all people would come into the realization of salvation. And we would share the ideas instead of go against each other.
Yeah, because I agree with you. I think that there's room for everyone because I know of people who are not of color, who are white folks that are not walking around, as I call it, consciously white. But we're not just talking about white folks. And we're not talking about white folks. Exactly. Exactly. And they're a tool. They've been used as a tool against us, if you will. So then their time, what does it say that? Brothers and sisters don't know this. Just to shed light on this specific point, the Jewish brothers and sisters that dominate the white race enslaved them and pretty much took from them everything that the white race is trying to take from us. Wow. Their identities, their understanding. And I can break down how it happened. I'm not going to reiterate on that today because, I have to cover a lot. But basically, you have to understand, when our people came to America and the righteous brothers and sisters that were of Caucasian descent, that were with our brothers and sisters, that we read in Scripture, the Father told you, He told us, that our people will be risen by a foreign nation. You got to understand what this means. This means we're going to have aid and help from someone we're not even thinking about. And guess who it might be? I'm just throwing it out there. It might be some young Gentile brothers. Hey, it can be some Arabian brothers. It can be some African brothers. I'm throwing it all out there. Well, let me interject because I read everything. I'm an information junkie. I'm not the news junkie. I'm an and I've read that there have been letters of warning sent from several countries regarding the treatment of black people in this country, of quote unquote African Americans, so called. And have you ever heard something like that?
Yes, sir. Oh, yes. I'm glad you brought that up. I've talked to plenty of brothers and sisters from other countries, online, on the phone, and in person, that were in my city. And I've come to understand it from all of these different sources that are from different nations and have lived and grew up in different places in different countries. They all say the same thing when it comes to our people. Now, how can this idea be spreaded throughout the whole world, but only the chosen people have no knowledge of it because of the buffer of white America in front of us, filtering everything that's coming into our country?
Exactly.
See,
thus the principle of self-educate, of investigating for ourselves. Continue, please.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I've talked to enough brothers and sisters to know that they already understand that we are Judah.
Yes.
They already understand that we are the descendants of Jerusalem. They already understand the prophecy as well. The political aspect, the physical, mental, and soulful aspect of this. They understand this world would change if our people would wake up and take their rightful place for where they need to be. And this is not going to be handed to us, brothers and sisters. That's another thing I want to make a point about. They're not going to open the door for us and welcome us in to having our freedoms and our identities and our lives and our futures back. This is what they very well is fighting against. So you never come to the realization of who you are and who God created you to be. Now, like I said before, I'm not going to go into the names and all of this thing because this is throwing our people off.
And we only got 12 minutes left. Let's do this. I know that in some respect the show went off track in some areas, and I know that folks listening have to understand this is our actual first broadcast, but this is it. But we're going to have exclusive broadcasts with David. We're going to have we're going to hopefully some guest hosts. I mean, I would love to have Minister Fortson on this program. I've said it, and I invite him to come aboard. We're going to try to do this more than once a week if we can, and depending on my co-host schedule, I want to include him as much as possible. Folks, listen. There's a reason this movement was started. I mean, for me, it was being driven to do something like this, to get a platform, to create an entity, to create a personality that can say the things that some may not want to hear. Some folks don't want to hear what we have to say. We understand that. We can take it. But there are others, like the sister that called in, our first caller on our first show, which I really appreciate. There are folks that are interested in knowing what's going on, and if we can get your attention and just those three principles, in my opinion, will at least begin the process of preparing. How about that, brother?
Oh, yes, sir.
How about that? At least it'll begin the process of preparing, because if we can get our minds right, if we can adjust ourselves correctly, square ourselves correctly when we talk to these people, let them know that we are thoughtful people, that we're pulling away from your dynamic. We're beginning to understand that you don't have our best interests at heart. And we're beginning to take steps that protect ourselves, because we have to. Because they're not going to do it. They don't care about us. They're not even thinking about black people right now. They're so focused on Mexican.
Brothers and sisters being killed in the streets.
Yeah, in Chicago.
Once in a while anymore, like it used to.
Yeah, Chicago. They had 20.
There's another brother getting locked up. A sister being raped, kidnapped.
Yes.
Come on, brothers and sisters, y'all gotta wake up.
We gotta wake up. We gotta separate ourselves mentally. We have to educate ourselves. We have to commit to the principle of do no harm to those that are us. We cannot. If we do that, we'll will be still enough so that the next step may take place. Now, I'm going to say this again. We got 10 minutes. I'm going to say it. The principle of do no harm applies only to the progeny of slaves, only to those involved in the agenda, specifically those the association geographically enslaved Negro descendants of the Americas. That's very specific because I think that it encompasses exactly who we talk about. Now, that principle of do no harm applies to those individuals, to us. Everybody else is fair game. I say that because, when we get shot, when our sisters get raped, when our children get murdered, I'm all about making a little noise about it. This marching, silently praying in the streets and all this thing, man, no, man, listen, it's a done, man. Are you out of your minds? They're killing us, man. So I'm not saying be offensive. I, of course, would never promote that. What I do want everyone within the sound of my voice to be defensive to the best of your ability and to defend yourselves. You have every right to defend yourself as a person. You don't need that right handed to you, and you don't have to have anybody, tell you to take caution. As far as I'm concerned, we are in a de facto war.
Yes, we are.
We are in a de facto war. They have declared war on us, and it's a silent, sinister, deadly war. And the best way...
That's the big thing that we want to make sure people understand.
Silent...
This is not something that you can go outside and see.
No. This is a silent, sinister, deadly war. And the only way to prevent real injury is to stay out of their goddamn faces. I'm sorry, I'm saying it, folks.
Stay out the way. Yes,
stay out the way, man, and let them know you're staying out the way. Because I'm gonna tell you, I've said it to their faces. I went into a place not long ago. Got commented on how I looked. I don't care to hear anybody's opinions. I'm not here for that. And I made it known. I'm not really interested. So he had an attitude. This is a white guy. And I said, okay, so I don't want to hear your comment. Now I'm an asshole. You're a racist. I'm not a racist. I'm just not interested in hearing what you have to say. We're not friends. I don't know you. I didn't comment on what you have to say. So he gets angry. I said, oh, you're getting angry now? Now you're showing me who you really are. Was you going to get violent in here? Should I leave? Because you guys are, and I mean that. That's the normal reaction. So when
our brothers need to understand this.
Man.
Maybe it's my brothers I want attention on.
Yes.
Sisters, y'all part of this.
Yes.
Yes, you are.
Yes.
You're not excluded. But right now, our brothers have been brainwashed and have got real docile and real comfortable in America with knowing if they can get a job, with knowing if they can pay their bills, with knowing they can be accepted into white America. They will continue living the way they have.
Yes.
Now, we're not going to focus on the ignorant in our race.
No. We can't waste time. Gotta let them go.
Be.
Yeah.
And we're going to pray for our brothers and sisters to come around and, take the time to do the research, self-examine themselves, and, just reinsert yourself into the society that we come from, that we're creating now. The Father has He's opened the door for us. He told us to come on in. We got 365 days, 64, to get this done. And what's important about that understanding is our elders have a job to do. Our elders. Let me ask one simple question to all listeners. If, for some reason, an elder, like a grandparent, the oldest person in your family, called to have a meeting for the family about this very thing, wouldn't you go?
Exactly. Listen, brother. I don't want to cut you off, but we've got about 5 minutes, 45 seconds left.
Okay, no problem.
I want to take this. No, it's okay. We're going to dedicate an entire show, an entire segment to these topics, folks. This is what you can expect from the Amos A. Nunn Show. Co-host Devon Smith. I am the Incog-Negro, the Black Fact Checker. We're going to have some dynamic shows. We're going to have, hopefully, some great guests. We're going to do this as often as possible. We appreciate the folks calling in. I want to tap in again that This show promotes the agenda, and the agenda speaks to a specific group of people, the Association of Geographically Enslaved Negro Descendants of the Americas. That's who I'm talking to. That's who I am talking to. And I want that to be so well established that that's who I'm speaking of, because it encompasses.
Brothers and sisters listening to the show.
Yes, yes.
Leave your feelings at home.
Yes, leave them at home, because we're the ones. No, forget that. Facts. Facts. And the facts show that we are, as we've said, we are in a specific and very ominous time that needs to be addressed. The Jubilee year is real. These things, there are references to these things in other writings, folks. This isn't like something we're making up. And so the preparation involves separating ourselves mentally, resegregating ourselves mentally, understanding that we are different. We're not like those that captured and enslaved us. Self-educate, examine all things, especially things taught to you by the enemy. These people are not your friend. They're not teaching you truth that puts them in a bad light. The truth isn't going to set them free. It's going to convict them. So it's going to convince. So, and the third and most important aspect of what we're promoting with the agenda is the principle of do no harm. That's why it's in caps. Do no harm. Commit to, no matter what, not doing any physical harm to any person who is a progeny of slave, who is a captive, who is a part of that agenda. Because if we live by that principle, and people begin to see, and people begin to express, hey man, I understand you. Oh, you want to do something? Nope. I commit to do no harm to brothers. And then that might spread. People go, what do you mean do no harm? Yeah, man, it's a principle we got to start living by. We can't hurt each other anymore. It's done. We can't. We are done. We have enough of them hurting us that we don't need to hurt each other anymore. Because when we hurt each other, all we're doing is emulating them. That's what we're doing. We're mimicking them. Yes.
Out of that mindset.
Yes.
It's a process. Of course, we're going to chip away a little at a time. And hopefully we have what we want the Father to have, for us to have. I'm sorry. We will have what the Father wants us to have. Enlightenment, understanding, due diligence to get this stuff done for our people and future generations. Because what the government is aiming at us right now is not for the adults in this generation. It's aimed at the children. Just like it was aimed at us when we were children. The things that happened in the 70s, in the 60s, and in the 80s, and in the early 90s were all aimed at the young men and women that's walking around today in their 20s and in their 30s.
It's a generational programming. Listen, we got 2 minutes left. I want to thank everyone for listening. I want to encourage everybody to share. I want you to look for us on our Twitter feed. Look for us on Facebook. Look for us on Instagram. We're putting together the website. I am Amos A. Nunn, the Incog-Negro, the Black Fact Checker, along with my co-host, Devon Smith, who balances me with his spiritual insight. I appreciate you being here for me today, Devon. You are the best.
Thank you for allowing me.
Oh, they're telling me I got 90 seconds left. Folks, I want you to have a wonderful morning, and you will see us at least by next Sunday, again, 9 o'clock, at least hour and a half show. I appreciate you guys listening. You guys have a wonderful day.